John Lusk here of Lusk Archery Adventures. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. Got another Broadhead review that's coming up. But first, I just want to thank you for all your faithful followership and watching my videos. If you've subscribed, thank you so much. If you haven't yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and hit that little bell next to it. It'll notify you when new videos are coming out, and I have a lot of new videos coming out. I have about 100 videos on my channel, so if you're just seeing this one, you've only seen a few, please go back in there. There's a ton of different broadheads that I've tested, all different types, single bevel, double bevel, all different mechanicals. Just dig into the library there, as well as I got about 70 different hunts from all over the world, my own bow hunts. So check them out. And I was fired up. Just last night, I had my second video cross 1 million views, and it's only been out for about 2.5 months. So it's crossed that really fast. It's the one where I shot a hog right between the eyes, and man, that thing just like, it just went stiff. It's pretty incredible. You got to check out that video if you haven't seen it already. But today, I'm going to be testing 2 new broadheads from the same manufacturer. They're the new Sever broadheads. Okay, now you may have seen the original Sever, came out a year ago. That had a 2.1 inch cutting diameter. It's a great head, flew fantastic, pretty tough. Penetration was what kind of you'd expect for a 2.1 inch broadhead. It was a little bit better than the NAP Kill Zone, but it really was a bit lacking for my kinetic energy and for my purposes. For deer, if you're wanting a big hole, or smaller game, turkey, stuff like that, if your number one goal is a big hole, big entrance hole, you're gonna get it with that 2.1. But to round out their lineup, they've come out with 2 additional offerings that I think are pretty cool. First here is their 1.7 inch broadhead. So this 1.7 inch broadhead has this stainless steel tip, and it's got an aluminum, 7075 aluminum, good grade aluminum ferrule. And it opens up, okay, rear deploying. I love that about the Severs. These 2 blades here, as they push, they open up. The blades lock in place to where then they're like that. And the diameter there is 1.7 inches. That's a good kind of all-round offering there to shoot kind of pretty much everything. 1.7, you're going to get decent penetration. You're also going to get a good cut size. Then they have the 1.5 inch head. Now this is like their 2.1, only it's 1.5, in that the ferrule is all titanium. The tip, everything is titanium. The blades, of course, are steel. And as this one opens up, the same way, rear deploying heads like that, they lock into place. There they are. There they are. Locking into place. Okay. And then they're 1.5 inches. So this one is designed for big-bodied animals, you know, thick, heavy skin, longer distance shots, perhaps, as you got a 1.5 inch cut. Now, I will add, it's 1.5 inches this way, but the tip is also, it's really, though it's a chisel tip, it's like a cut on contact by it being so sharp. And this is like a 5/16 of an inch cut here. So a little over 1/4 that way and 1.5 that way. So you're getting a little bit more than a 1 3/4 inch cut, but with a 1.5 inch wide hole. You with me there? And then this one, 1.7 inches in cut. The tip is not quite as big as it is on this one. The ferrule on this one is a bit smaller than it is on this one. This is the 125 grain. It comes out in 100 and 125. This one just comes out in 100 grain. This one's a little bit cheaper. So they have this direct-to-consumer approach where you can only order them off of their website, and they have deals. If you buy more, you get a lower price and so forth. But these are like $11.99 each. They sell them by the onesies. Or these are $13.99 each, the same as the 2.1s. That's because of the titanium. So those are the 2 different heads. I love the way Severs work. If you're not familiar with it, as you saw, those 2 little blades, they're not blades, there's 2 little wings right there are exposed in flight, and then they contact the animal, the tissue. They actually serve to stretch. They call it a pre-stretch, to pre-stretch the hide as they deploy the blades, and then the blades pop out from the rear. So you get not only you get a full cut on entry, but with hide, you're going to get a little bit bigger cut because of what they call that pre-stretch. That's the theory there. And then the heads lock into place. So unlike a lot of mechanical heads that can close down if there's not a certain amount of pressure, these lock in place. They're not going to get a smaller cut than they are in their full deployment like that. But they're not barbed. You can pull them out that way, but then they go back down when they're penetrating like that, and they stay locked within the animal. But then the cool thing about the Severs is they rotate like this. So if they encounter a hard medium like a rib or something like that, the blade is just going to roll off, or the blade is going to fold down, allowing this blade to continue to cut, and it keeps the broadhead on track. I don't know if you've ever had it. I've had it where I shoot a broadhead into an animal and it hits a certain bone and it just deflects off course. And it's really funny. You go, how did the broadhead come out at that angle? Sometimes it causes you to not get a good exit or not fully penetrate both lungs or so forth. This prevents that largely by being able to bounce around bone, and then as soon as it passes it, it pops back out because it's locked in this full cutting position. So it rotates around like that. It's really neat. And then also the way it's designed is the way these blades lock is if there's an extra pressure on the blades will kind of, I'm talking like a real heavy pressure that would break most blades. Before they would bend, they compress just a little bit to absorb a little bit of that impact. And so they're designed to be pretty tough and difficult to break there. They got with the 1.7 inch, they've got blades that are 0.035 inches thick. With the 1.5 inch, they've got blades that are 0.032 inches thick, and all the same features of this blade, that just kind of pivots around the bone and stays on track. These are two really cool looking heads. I was excited that they came out with the 1.7 and came out with the 1.5 because the 2.1 was just a little bit much for me to be able to be confident I'm going to get a pass through. I know I get a big hole, but I want to make sure I get a pass through personally. And for hunting elk and bigger animals, I really want to make sure I get deep penetration. So another thing about this is you'll notice with the 1.5 inches, the blade angle is really, it's a lot less than it was. Like the 2.1 was about like that, but this one, the 1.5, it's a lot less of blade angle. So penetration is not only better because of a smaller cutting area, but it's also better because of the angle is a lot less. The same with this one. This one's a little bit more than the 1.5 you can see in terms of angle, but it's less than that 2.1. So these are going to penetrate because of that blade angle being a lot less, and because of the shorter diameter cut, you're going to be able to get pretty good penetration is what they hope. Now, in terms of this being 1.5, you might think, well, 1.5 is kind of small, or you may think 1.7 is kind of small, but there's not very many heads. Think of fixed heads. There's not very many fixed heads. They have a 1.5 inch cut. They'll be cross, and maybe they'll have 2 inches of cut, an inch this way, an inch this way. But what I find with broadheads on game is that the wider a cut, the more effective you're going to get bloodletting. There's something about it. A smaller cut, even if you have like 4 blades that cuts a smaller cutting diameter, the total tissue cut is a lot, but that hole is smaller and it gets plugged up easier with the organs and so forth. They can plug that hole, resulting in not good blood trail. But when you get a wider cut, even like a 1.5, then that wound tends to stretch open. The hide stretches open as the animal moves, and you get a lot better bloodletting. Of course, with the 1.7, you get even more than that. The 2.1, you're going to get a lot, but you're going to compromise in the penetration. So you have something for kind of everyone with these new lineups. So what I want to see is, how do these things fly? I'm going to take them out and test them. They're really the same head, so I'm just going to be testing this one in terms of flight. Oh, and I should have added this, darn it, that they have this cool thing, the Sever as well. They come with the little set screw that you can screw in right there after the head is closed. And then when you shoot it, the head is in a closed position and the blades do not touch the target at all. It's really nice on your target, and it's really nice on the head itself. It's easy to pull out, and it's not like a practice head. It is the same head. Just when you go to hunt, you take out that set screw, make sure you remember to take it out, and then the heads will deploy like that. So I'm going to shoot these out to some distance, see how they do, and then I'm going to shoot them into my various forums. I'm going to shoot them through the same things I've been shooting them through all my heads through this year. I got a couple layers of MDF. They're 1/2 inch each with a foam mat in the front. We'll test that out for penetration and durability. Then we'll test an angled shot, 45-degree angle on the MDF, and see how does it do on an angled shot. And then if it's still going, I don't know if it'll still be going, but if they're still going for a mechanical head, then I'm going to put it through a steel plate and more MDF. And we'll see after all that how these heads do and how they hold up. So let's give it a whirl. As I've been doing throughout this whole year since I got my new bow, I'm going to be using my Bowtech SR6. I got it set at 73 pounds, 72, 73 pounds, and I have it on the comfort setting. So I'm going to be shooting that, and for the arrows, I'm using the most durable arrow that there is made, the Bishop Mammoth FOC King, because I really damage these things. I put them through the ringer, and these arrows just don't damage. So they're incredibly resilient. So let's see how they do. Oh, I want to add one more thing that's come out with the Sever broadheads. You can get them by Easton. Easton owns Sever, and they oversee that now. They've come out with this new case, and these came with the Severs that I had. It's a new broadhead case, and you can see it here. It's just a small case like that, and you open up the end, you just push in there, you open it up, and you can hold 6 broadheads extremely securely. You turn it over, you do the same thing on the other side, and these tops come off, and then the broadheads are still secure in there. They're held in place by these little rubber grippers, but the blades don't touch anything. So it's really a cool way to carry a bunch of broadheads into the backcountry or throw them in the truck or something like that. Super durable, like it's like a substantive kind of thing. So you don't have to use them just with Sever, but anything that's worth a good look. First, the 1.5 inch, 125 grain. Now the 1.7. You can see that both of them penetrated all the way through the first board, obviously, and then stuck into the second board, and then in the back. It's hard to see in there. Here you can see where the 1.7 inch bulged out a little bit. The 1.5 inch over here, that bulged out quite a bit more. Here you can see the entrance of each of the heads. They're both deployed upon impact, even with this soft pad over the first board, and the cuts are exactly as advertised. The 1.5 inch on the left opened up to 1.5 inches, and the 1.7 inches on the right opened up to 1.7 inches. Exactly. Now I have a board set up at a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to shoot each of them like that. First, the 1.5 inch. Now the 1.7 inch. Here you see both of them penetrated exactly straight through. There was no sliding off that board at a 45-degree angle at all, and the penetration was great for both of them. You see the top one was the 1.5 inch, the bottom the 1.7. Because these heads have held up so well, just out of curiosity, I'm going to shoot them into the steel plate and see what happens. That was the 1.5 inch, now the 1.7 inch. Wow, I wasn't expecting them to hold up that well after all those other shots, but they went through the steel plate and then through this second board. You can see the 1.5 inch at the top, the 125 grain blew all the way through it, and you can see the tip of the 1.7 inch 100 grain sticking out the bottom. Here's the heads after going through the initial 2 layers of MDF, and then another layer of MDF at an angle, and then a layer of steel plate, and then another MDF, 1/2 inch MDF. All of them were 1/2 inch MDFs, and they both held up extremely well. On the 1.5 inch, there's zero damage to that tip. That's a great tip. The blades, there's very little damage. You gotta look closely to see that the blade edges We have one nick in them there. That nick at the bottom is by design. That's where the rubber bands go around. But there's a little nick above that. As for the 1.7 inch, they too held up really well. A little bit of nicks on that top blade and the bottom blade. The blade's got a little bit nicked up through the steel. But man, these heads held up really well. The ferrules, the tips, the blades, through it all. So when I first heard about these heads hitting the market, I had a lot of hope that they'd penetrate well and hold up well with the changes that they've made in these new models. But they've exceeded my expectations, I got to be honest. In terms of flight, I knew they'd fly extremely well, and they do. They fly as good as any mechanical head I've ever tested. I mean, they're like a field point in flight. I mean, they're like right up there with the very best. And then in terms of penetration, you saw it. And in terms of durability, my goodness, I mean, these two arrows have gone through 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of 1/2 inch MDF and a steel plate and this foam mat, and even at an angled shot like that. And man, they're still going. You know, if I was out hog hunting, I'd still use them for hogs. You know, a little bit of chipping or a little bit of denting on the blade, like you said, but they've exceeded my expectations in every area: durability, penetration, and I knew they do good in flight. So this is really a good head to consider for the different animals. And again, you got the 2.1 inch, you got the 1.7, you got the 1.5. Based on your bow setup and the animal that you're pursuing, hopefully you can find something that works for you. But you ought to consider these heads.